There we go. Cool. All right, welcome everybody. It is January 14th. It is our next installment of our Migration Weekly Update. And we have Anthony with us again from, well, I won't say where from, but we're always happy to have you.
Oh, it's always good to be here, Al.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, I never updated that date. So we have some website previews. It's very interesting as to some of this looks familiar, and there's nothing, we've got a hodgepodge of information sitting on there. Some is real, some isn't. So, but anyway, that's kind of where it'll start looking like with some of these screens. Say the dashboard when you log in to see what your company and your clients might, in this case, you won't have, Anthony, you wouldn't have the clients on this side, but your dashboard could maybe a list of employees or whatnot. But
right,
for guys like me, I come in and I kind of start seeing this, and I know that this is customizable. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that was shared is the editing. So anything that ends up in blue is going to be editable. And as this, one of the things that I know I've talked about in the past is that it's both current as you're processing payroll and historical. So after things are done and you need to make a change, you can, and it will populate through all the required amended forms. So you can do that as many times as you want. And as I said to somebody, oh, I want to say that might've been Wednesday, while the feature's going to be there, it's, I've got some notices sitting here from clients, and one's all the way back to 2011. It's still an issue. 10 years later, we're still dealing with, and it's an IRS mistake, but the more times that something does get changed, the more problematic it can become on their side, even if you fill out the right forms. All the right forms were filled out in this particular case.
Mm-hmm.
And the IRS in that particular matter has got a previous entity confused with a buyout. So even the EINs changed, the legal structure changed, but they're still associating the two together, even though they're totally not.
Oh,
No
I
matter
see.
how many times
Okay.
it is unbelievable how long some of these things can take. But when it sits on an IRS agent's desk, yes, they want to clear it and get it off their plate just as much as we want it off their plate. And at the same time, if there's any amount of confusion, it sits and sits and sits, and it takes forever. So
Right.
I share that just to say you will be able to make changes you yourself you don't have to contact me. You
Right.
can, but you can make these changes, and it will promulgate to where it needs to go. And it will potentially, it could potentially cause some consternation on the IRS side. And unless these things catch up as far as the electronic filings and they see
Right.
the chronological submission,
Right.
So it's a cool feature. I'm thrilled to have it. I personally like it. So when somebody says, hey, we forgot to put our life insurance or our health insurance
Yep.
rather in for our
Yep.
S Corp stuff, we can make those changes. But it could cause some consternation after those things process if the IRS doesn't, because their system is ancient. So
Right.
just wanted to
Right.
make sure that we address that kind of and it'll be something that I continue to share on.
So the advice you would have is to try as much as possible to have the information as accurate as possible at the time you're submitting. Otherwise, to
Right.
avoid these kind of scenarios. But life is life, right?
And it's going to happen. It absolutely is going to happen. And so
Yep.
when it happens, you want to, in that same vein, you want to limit the number of times you do have to change that historical
Right. Yeah.
information, so you just don't have.
Yeah.
It would not be something you want to do willy-nilly. You might say, hey, oh, I forgot it here, I'm going to do it. Oh, I forgot it again, I'm going to do it again. And if there's a possibility that there could be multiple changes,
Right.
really take a look at that and then make all those changes at once and submit them at once.
Yes.
Because then it's one amended filing going in.
Right.
And it's only the original plus the amended, as opposed to maybe 5 or 6 or 7.
So here's a
If you
question
did it
on that
piecemeal.
vein, if you don't mind my interjecting,
Yeah,
is
I'll go back up here.
does your system automatically then file an amended return, or that is the plan, or do you have to hit a button to do that, or what's the process for that then for amended
That's
returns?
a great question. Currently, right, we got to click through things, and while most of our clients have no idea that that's what we do behind the scenes, the kind of
Mhm.
the squirrel running in the what is it, the gerbil
Right.
running in the wheel. We do a lot of button clicking for everybody to submit those. So it is a pretty much a manual process in the wholesale payroll platform. You'll be able to set that to your preference. Do you want it to go automatically, or do you want to continue on with a more manual process? So you run the gamut, either side. My preference would be just do it automatically. Why not do it that way? Why create work where there doesn't need to be? And so
Correct.
one of the things that we're going to change is we're going to default everybody. So true payroll customers will be defaulted to an automatic settings.
Right.
We're going to set our preferences in the wholesale payroll platform as
Right.
we onboard customers. Here's the default settings that they're going
Right.
to get, and it
Right.
will require an employer to make a change to that and accept the responsibility of changing that setting.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
Does that make sense? Okay, cool.
Yep. Makes
Great
sense.
question.
Yeah, thank you.
And so yeah, when there's a change and an amended form is needed, or an additional tax payment may be
Mhm.
required, those things will populate automatically and get sent out automatically and go to whatever agencies need to get them, whether it be
Right.
Florida or another state or
Right.
Social Security or the IRS.
Right. Gotcha. Makes sense.
Cool. The other thing that's cool is I got to see what it's going to look like for some of in this case, the white label members. So there's actually going to be a little bit of there's a badge designated for those of us. So that would be True Payroll, will be a wholesale. So we'll get that badge. Just kind of a little advertising thing.
Mhm.
And one of the other things is the affiliate program badge and whatnot is now created. This is going to be on the website. So Anthony, if you or who you represent, I almost said the
Yep.
name.
Yep. No worries. No, that's all right.
Either one or both can become an affiliate, and wholesale payroll will actually create a rewards program that's cash money that they will pay you to bring customers to the platform, whether it
Oh,
be
cool.
an employee. Well, in this case, the affiliate programs for bringing subscribers like me, so other accountants, and then they
Right.
have a second program, which is the referral program, which is to refer employers. So there's two different programs, one for a subscriber like me and one for the actual employer. Because the employers, one of the cool things that wholesale payroll is doing is they're not selling the platform directly to employers. You have to go through somebody in order to be able to use it. So you'll be able to see a list of who are the white label partners. So that's what that program is going to be about.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they're not going to compete. Every other provider out there, they will sell retail and compete with those who are subscribing to their service.
Right.
I
guys
never
want to
like
work
that
more by
model.
referral. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to be in competition with the people who own the software.
Right.
They have a distinct advantage over me. That's part of the reason this is all happening the way it is
Sure.
because of what the other folks have done. But all those shots will be on the site when it goes live in a couple of weeks.
Right.
So Wholesale Payroll's website is going to be active here soon. So I did get
good.
preview of it. So I snuck in a couple of images here. So that's pretty cool. There were no questions this week. So do you have any additional questions?
I do have a question. I have a question about 1099s. Two parts, actually. First of all, 1099s, I know that you provide those, so that's a question that you can talk about what you do for 1099s. I know I'm trying to do it through, because we only have a few 1099s that our company deals with right now. But I wanted to understand whether it was on a cash basis or an accrual basis that 1099 is prepared, or the other question is, what's really the difference between an NEC and a MISC? And what are the differences? Kind of how does that work, and what do you encounter? What's your experience? What's your advice on the whole 1099 issue?
Yeah, so awesome questions. Currently, True Payroll offers the 1099 service at $60 annually to activate. There is a cost to us, which is we basically pass it along. There's a slight markup to it, but not much. And it's essentially comparative to if you had to go out and buy the whole packet of forms and envelopes and whatnot.
Mhm.
And then there's two different ways of handling that. One is to actually have contractors in the system that you're actually utilizing the direct deposit or check printing parts of it, just like it would be for an employee. That's going to continue into the wholesale payroll platform.
Okay,
So contractors are in there. Then depending on the type of payment that is being made in the current platform, you can only have NEC qualified payments, which are non-employee compensation. That's what that stands for. So
right.
it would the former box 1 on the 1099 miscellaneous. So the
Okay.
Congress split those out. So the miscellaneous is truly for miscellaneous style payments,
Right.
non-contractor related, so an ongoing engagement. And the NEC is specifically designed just for that type of arrangement. So when you think about, hey, it's $600 or more, I got to issue the 1099, that's now a 1099 NEC.
Okay, and that's for anybody who's providing a service to you that's not an employee,
Right.
has to
And not
be
a
issued,
corporation.
and not
So
a
if it's
corporation. And
Partnership,
so,
LLC,
right.
individual. Yep.
and right, and I understand that usually you ask for a W-9, and we're doing
Correct.
that, which will confirm that status and give you usually a social security number to put on the 1099. That's correct? So most payments follow under that. So most businesses are going to produce 1099 NECs, not the 1099 MISC.
Miscellaneous.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
And you only do the NECs.
No, we can do either one of those. And then so in some
Okay.
cases, Anthony, we have clients that use the system to even make, in one case, loan payments. And we know what the interest amount is on that loan payment.
Oh, okay.
And we facilitate. Right. Here it is.
So investment income to the person
so
who's receiving the 1099.
Yeah, I'm gonna hide that part of it, right? But
Yep.
it's just, this is the 1099 INT. So that one we do by
Okay.
hand, and we do it manually. It's not part of this particular platform. We track the payments and whatnot in here because they use the direct deposit in order to facilitate those. And then we just help them by preparing that particular 1099 for the interest.
The interest that's paid by the company to
Yeah.
the person who has
So,
the money privately loaned
moving
to them.
into the new system, while that's not going to be ready for launch, that is definitely something we'll have available if somebody wants to create a 1099 INT for interest payments.
Right.
There's no reason we couldn't allow for that to be in that particular platform.
Right. But you don't normally handle the interest payments, but you could organize it so somebody could type in all the interest amounts or something like that, or you.
We
or you
will.
gather them.
Yeah, the wholesale payroll platform will be
Interest
able
payments?
to do that.
Right.
Sure. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Anything to do with contract style or vendor style payments.
Oh, cool.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best choice for doing those things, simply because they still have to go. It's really only if you want to use it for direct deposit.
Right.
Your bank's bill pay is probably less expensive in those cases to do vendor payments. It's just really those that you need to track for the reporting.
Yes.
Yep. So it'll be available. And again, not necessarily the best resources for.
Right.
We did have somebody a number of years ago use it for vendor payments. And it was kind of problematic because it's not designed for that. It's not designed to be an accounting bill pay.
Right. Gotcha.
Using a bank to do that is much
standard. Yeah.
Much more efficient than. However, if it's for a 1099, then it makes sense to put them in and track that for an NEC type purpose.
And back to the other question I had about cash versus accrual basis. So if you have, let's say, an invoice at the end of December and you don't pay it till January, does it get added to the NEC for 2022 or 2021?
Yes. It would be it's a cash basis. Yeah. Your 1099s are based on when the check
was
date.
issued, a check date, basically. Yeah.
Yep.
Or
The
payment date if it's
date.
direct payment. Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah,
That's really important to know.
it's the exact same as a W-2. So
Right,
whenever
yeah, and
the-
I
Doesn't
figured
matter the
that
pay
would be,
period.
yeah, I figured that would be the case, but I thought it's worth double checking.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So the other side of that too, Anthony, is if, say you're a business that's receiving a 1099, you could be accruing it as an expense. The other side
Right,
could
right.
be accruing it as revenue.
Right,
But
Yep.
it wouldn't show up on the 1099, even though both sides are going to put it in the 2021 year. If they're
right.
both on accrual, the 1099 is a cash basis.
Yeah, no, I
Sure.
understood that. Yeah, because I know
Yep.
that on the, I understood that on the receiving side. you
It's
accrue that
it's a
income.
totally great question because it comes up, I'd say every year. The
Yeah.
1099 doesn't match what I have in my records. Well, you're doing accrual, this is on cash. So
Yeah.
just look to see the difference. So you'll have the overflow from the previous year and then you have the
Yep.
overflow from the current year. So, yeah.
What has your experience been, if any, with respect to the IRS and auditing 1099s and all that kind of stuff? Do they
It's
look
ramping
closely
up.
at that and try to
Yep.
match, a person's income versus what they're receiving in a 1099
Yeah.
NEC?
What's called the IDRS. I do not remember what that stands for. That is the main system that
Right.
houses all of the tax form data. And
Right.
over the course of the last 10 to 15, 20 years, it's one of the reasons, Anthony, we're seeing changes in forms, the W-4, the W-2s, the 1099s, the K-1s, and even the tax forms themselves, the 1120,
Mhm.
the 1165s, they're items that are particularly related to payroll and contractors and the ownership and officers, in order to compare what it gets filed on an information return. That's what a 1099 and W-2 are considered,
Mhm.
information returns.
Right.
They will compare that not only to your tax return, they're going to compare that to the industries that you're in to see if there's reasonable compensation and if there's compensation at all. Because there's any number of people that will utilize contractors in an attempt to avoid paying employment taxes, right?
Right.
And the related insurances that you might need to have.
Right.
And so there's a comparison that does get done automatically. And that just continues to get more interesting over time
Right.
because they're doing all of I mean, just imagine all the data they have and the analytics. And I will tell you the challenge I believe they have now seeing how some softwares actually get developed. The databases that they have are so old. Deploying new like AI technology that can
Right.
go in and look at that, it's definitely not an easy process, which is why it's taking them longer. And once they get all that figured out, it's just getting harder and harder to hide stuff. If you, I'll just put it out there like that, right? If you're, and when it comes to the employee contractor mix, they're hot and heavy over S corps and LLCs to make sure that they're getting employment taxes out of people.
Sure.
Just a few years ago, it was 800 new agents, and I think they hired even more after COVID for all this compliance. Then add in the PPP programs, the EIDLs, and all these things. There's definitely going to be some audits occurring that are of a new venue.
Correct. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, it's the only way to
tougher,
keep
not
the
easier.
system honest. It's the only, you have to have some checking, otherwise people will take license with their decisions and how they fill out things. So yeah.
So if Enron can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite the story. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Anything
Well,
else?
thank you.
Any other questions that come into mind?
No, that was the big one for me today, but that was very helpful. Thank you so much, Al. I appreciate it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, then we will cut this one short, and then before you go, I'm going to give you some additional instructions. I'll turn off the recording here in a second. We'll be back, everybody, in another week, and this will turn from just kind of the launch stuff, and I'm just going to be here every Friday and do some updates on what's going on in the industry once we actually migrate and all that. So every Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that's it for that. All right. Let me do the We'll stop the share. There's the controls. Stop recording.